Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Cowa. Our special guest today is Lauren Townsend. She's the founder of Millie's Homemade Ice Cream, an emerging franchisor, retailer, and wholesaler of super premium ice cream based in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. She and her husband, Chad, started the company in their home kitchen in 2014 and have since expanded to multiple brick-and-mortar scoop shops, seasonal kiosks, and food trucks in Western Pennsylvania, many owned and operated by franchise partners. From sourcing high-quality Pennsylvania dairy to finding local purveyors of sustainable sourced ingredients to collaborating with like-minded regional organizations, Millie strives to craft every scoop and every moment to make your day. Welcome, Lauren. We're so
Thank
glad you could
you.
be here.
Welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Tracy. Happy to be here as well. This is great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, just say ice cream, and me and Rebecca are all smiles.
Mhm.
Who doesn't love ice cream, right?
There are very few people, it turns out, that don't like ice cream.
We need to
It's a
find
great.
them and and eliminate them.
There must be something seriously wrong with those folks, is all I can say.
So,
It's not a bad business to be in, that's for sure.
oh, so it's nice to be in a business where that makes people smile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
It's really nice. My before we started Millie's, my husband was a chef. And, in a restaurant, you tend to hear about all of the bad
Yeah.
experiences, right? And the good experiences too. Um, but the stakes are a lot higher, right, in a restaurant. And at Millie's, we tend not to get many poor reviews at all, which is really nice. Most of the reviews we get are just happy customers, and that makes you feel good.
Happy. That's beautiful. So, speaking of your husband, I know that I read your origin story on your website and I love it, but I want more of the ushy gushy details and I want everyone to hear it because I think it is such a phenomenal story. Can you
Yeah,
share?
yeah. Happy to share it. So my background's in finance. And I worked in the mergers and acquisitions industry for many years. My husband, Chad, is a chef by training and background. And he and I were going to open a French restaurant. He had trained in France, and I fancy myself a Francophile. And we were going to open a French restaurant in Pittsburgh. And we went out for ice cream to talk about our restaurant, what it was going to look like, the concept. And the ice cream was just kind of mediocre.
Mm,
And we started commenting on the fact that Pittsburgh really didn't have any artisanal ice cream, yet we had seen it in other cities. We had seen that concept. And I knew he made really great ice cream and sorbets, just from, visiting his restaurants where he worked as a chef. And I thought, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could try that. And Chad, unbeknownst to me, really wanted to purchase this contraption called a Paco Jet, which is over $5,000, or at least it was at the time. I don't know how much they cost now, but it's this Swiss-made contraption that chefs love because it makes everything under the sun, but it also makes really great ice cream and sorbet. And so he said, Lauren, that sounds like a good idea because he wanted to buy one of these things. And so I agreed. I put it on my credit card because he had no credit to his name at the time. And I said, we're going to put this on the credit card, but we have to pay it off by the end of the summer. And so we started experimenting in our home kitchen with different ice cream recipes. A friend of ours was kind enough to let us do a pop-up at their restaurant on the weekends. And we started selling ice cream. We called it Millie's. We named it after his grandmother.
Oh,
And it got really popular. People were excited about it. And they came out to the pop-up. And then at the end of the summer, we kind of had to make a decision like, okay, are we going to do this French restaurant, right? Or do we have something here with this pop-up ice cream concept?
Wow.
And we felt like we did, that we had something. And so we doubled down and pursued the ice cream route. And the rest is history, as they say.
Wow.
that's crazy. You know, when you think about it, I think a lot of businesses are kind of something that just turned from something into something else. It wasn't originally, I'm going to build this into an empire. I'm going to invent this. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
It's more just, oh, this thing over here that then turns into something. A $5,000 investment that now has turned into a very successful franchise concept with thousands and thousands of people that love your ice cream.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, right?
Huh.
And actually our LLC we had created for the French restaurant before we started Millie's. And so we were using that original LLC when we started Millie's, which was La Recette, which is recipe in French.
Mm.
And so for the first year of Millie's, we were actually operating under a different LLC name because we had already created it.
You know what I like, Lauren? The fact that you were able to have this sort of beta test at your friend's restaurant. That
Mhm.
acted as your beta. And you were like, let's see how people respond to this.
Mhm.
It really did. And then what happened was the weather got cooler, right? We're in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And so we experience all four seasons here.
Mm.
And so the weather started to get cooler and we could no longer operate as a pop-up ice cream shop. And so we transitioned to a home delivery model
Oh,
where we were delivering ice cream all around the Pittsburgh area to our customers, folks that had heard about us from this pop-up. And it was great because, talk about really that feedback loop with your customer. We were sending them a new flavor every week and
wow.
getting their notes in real time on texture, taste, mouthfeel, right? Everything that's important in developing an ice cream recipe. So it was pretty
Wow.
powerful. We didn't make any money, right? It wasn't a profitable venture. But what it allowed us to do was a lot of product testing early on. And we developed like this just loyal base of followers in those first few months of starting Millie's. So many folks ended up falling in love with the brand through that delivery service. So when we opened our first brick and mortar shop, we already had some brand recognition.
For sure. And the relationship, that's intimate to come into someone's home to actually deliver something, right? It's kind of like a neighbor coming with a pound cake that they made to welcome you to the neighborhood. But here is this high-end ice cream being delivered. So it's a relational component too.
Rebecca, you're exactly right. There's a Kickstarter video that exists somewhere where we interviewed a lot of these early subscribers. We called it an ice cream CSA, community supported agriculture. It was a riff on that. and, and we have interviews with those early subscribers, and it's so much fun. And my job was to develop all the routes, right? Because I'm kind of an analytical person. And I was very strategic in the routes because I would make sure we would end on the houses that we would come in and have beers with the folks that were getting ice cream.
Ice cream and beer.
Ice cream. Yeah, we ended up just like becoming really good friends with these people. Yeah.
So the subscription idea, is it I sign up for a monthly subscription and I get so much ice cream a month?
That's what it was. Yeah, it was. We
Oh,
ended up doing like an 8-week run was the first CSA where we delivered 1 pint each week. So you were able to experience 8 different flavors. And then the second CSA, we got a little bit smarter about logistics, and we delivered 4 times, but each time was 2 pints.
Pints.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was this pre-COVID, the delivery? Like before
Yeah.
everybody else was delivering?
Yeah, this was pre-COVID. So we started the business in our kitchen, basically the summer of 2014. And then that first CSA delivery was fall of 2014. And we continued it spring of 15, fall of 2015 again. Actually, we may have done the summer of, there may have been 4.
Wow.
And then we opened our first brick and mortar in spring of 2016.
Oh my gosh. My mom, Lauren, was an ice creamaholic, especially in her last days in the nursing home.
Oh.
Man, she would have loved somebody to deliver directly to her, and it would have made me feel good. What a great idea. So now we got past 2015. Tell me about some of the other changes and evolution as you continue to grow.
Yes, great question. So it turns out it's illegal to manufacture ice cream in your home. So,
Details.
so the very first step for us was building out a dairy plant. So dairy is regulated on a state-by-state basis. And in the state of Pennsylvania, in the Commonwealth, in order to manufacture ice cream from scratch, you need to be a registered dairy plant. And so many farms qualify as a dairy plant. And so that's why a lot of farms make ice cream. But for us, given that we weren't a farm, we had to purchase a pasteurizer. That way we could receive raw ingredients and make sure we were keeping everyone safe. So that's what we did. We launched a Kickstarter campaign to purchase a pasteurizer, and we built out a small production facility that would qualify in the eyes of the state as a dairy plant so that we could make ice cream from scratch. That was hugely important to us, that we were taking all of the raw ingredients and manufacturing ice cream, making our own base for different flavor profiles, right? That's a huge part of what we do and what makes Millie's Millie's. If you go to a scoop shop, a mom and pop scoop shop that has homemade ice cream, they're typically buying a base from a dairy, and then adding inclusions and churning it into finished ice cream. But we wanted to make that base because our vanilla base is different than our chocolate base. We don't want to start with the same off-the-shelf base, right? We want to be able to make everything from scratch using raw ingredients and all natural ingredients.
Yum.
You know what amazes me is that as an entrepreneur, like you originally started out in mergers and acquisitions, but as an entrepreneur, you suddenly became a dairy expert. I mean, I'm sure there's very little about dairy that you don't know at this point.
Yeah. Well, my husband knows a lot more. I need to give credit where credit is due. At the time when we were building out our first production facility, he read this 1,000-page book, the Pennsylvania Milk Ordinance.
Wow.
Which, regulates all dairy manufacturers. And so he learned quite a bit. And it's interesting, right? In each stage of our growth, we've almost had to relearn how to make ice cream with different equipment.
Oh.
Because making ice cream in your home kitchen is very different than making ice cream on a batch freezer, right? Which was the first step we took. And that's very different than making ice cream using a continuous freezer, which is what we have now, right? So that we had to really relearn the process of making ice cream with each step in our growth.
Without compromising those flavors and the texture that makes Millie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. I have this picture going into, some kind of one of your stores or Millie's museum, and that original ice cream maker thingy that your husband bought, being right there in the front, on display, the original Millie's ice cream churner or whatever it's called, That's a crazy picture that I had. So this is a continuous learning experience. Now, today, Lauren, each of your individual locations and franchisees, they're not churning and doing it themselves. It's now is that right? That's
right. All of the production is done centrally. We have a production facility in Homestead, which is 10 minutes outside of the city of Pittsburgh. And we manufacture all of the ice cream there. We also manufacture a lot of our own toppings too. So we do a homemade caramel sauce, a homemade chocolate sauce. We have our own waffle cone mix that we send to the scoop shops, right? Because that's an important part of the Millie's experience. When you walk into the scoop shop, you're just enveloped in that delicious cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla waffle cone smell. So we make all of that in-house, and then we send it to the scoop shops. So it's really nice for a franchisee because we've taken all of the things that are complicated about running an ice cream shop, and centralize those. We call it Millie's Ice Cream Works is our factory name.
Wow. So how does that work as you expand? And, out of the three of us, we can agree that I know the least about franchise. So I'm just curious, as you expand your locations, your territories, does that mean eventually you're going to have a centralized plant in a different location to serve different states? Or is it always going to be contained in the location you're in now? How does that work?
Tracy, that's a great question. It's important for us as a brand to maintain product consistency. And so we want to control the manufacturing process. And so for us, that means building out a distribution network that can support our growth and working with distribution partners that have freezer trucks,
Okay.
right? Which is very different than refrigeration.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my fiance was a truck driver. I get the whole, different types of trucks and trailers, and okay, this makes sense.
Yes. So we're in the process now of building out that infrastructure, because we have some opportunities to now grow beyond the Pittsburgh market. And we're really interested in moving south to the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast of the United States, because we know that Millie's works in Pittsburgh, which doesn't have the best weather. And so we think it could be even more successful if we go to even better climates.
Yeah, we are very interested in having Millie's come down to Florida. We are very interested in that.
Great. Yeah. We would love that.
Yes. And it's interesting, as Tracy pointed out, and you've laid out for us, this is a constant evolution of what was just a little idea. Now you're in a logistics and distribution business, also a manufacturing business, and then growing this franchise. So you're constantly having to adapt and learn, which brings me to another topic, Lauren. this idea of being an entrepreneur, I do think that's an attribute of entrepreneurs, that they do have this level of adaptability, the idea of this is a game and strategy, and willing to constantly learn. Would you agree, as an entrepreneur yourself, these are some of the attributes that you possess?
100%. Yes. You have to be able to adapt, sometimes on a daily basis, as we saw during the pandemic, right? I mean, early on in the pandemic, it felt like we were reinventing ourselves every day, right? And I know many entrepreneurs felt that way. We were not alone.
Yeah.
But yes, you have to adapt quickly. You have to be willing to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about your strategic plan and develop a strategic plan. But if things don't work out, you also need to just go back to the drawing board, right? And come up with a new plan. Early on at Millie's, we threw a lot of things at the wall, right? We didn't know really what was going to gain traction. We thought at the time that we would be more of a wholesaler to upscale restaurants, which is still a part of our business, but certainly not the biggest part of our business, right? We learned very quickly that we were a retailer, right? That we had an opportunity to connect directly with the customer, that the opportunity to sell our ice cream to upscale restaurants was probably not as large as the opportunity to sell our ice cream directly to consumers.
Amazing, just amazing. And even that business model, as you described, dealing with an end user, the customer, is a completely different buying strategy, marketing strategy to them, branding strategy, than it would be to that high-end French restaurant, right? It's a different kind of relationship and a different kind of strategy. All I can say about this is I am glad you decided to go to the consumer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We are too. We are too. It was a good move. And listen, we still have French restaurants that buy Millie's and they proudly promote it on their menu, which is great because it just reinforces the brand in a lot of different channels,
Yes.
right? Another channel for us is the local grocery stores. We sell packaged pints to our local grocery store partners. And that, again, just builds brand awareness in the markets where we have scoop shops.
So, Lauren, getting back to your previous career in M&A, and then your husband's previous career as a chef, although he's still a chef, but he's a chef of ice cream flavors. But you both had the entrepreneurial spirit, or was it just you?
Oh, yeah, definitely both of us have had and have the entrepreneurial spirit. We are both risk takers, I think, by nature, which I don't know if that's a good combination or not.
How does it work? How does that work?
Yeah, that's practically speaking. I think for us, we end up bouncing a lot of ideas off one another. We become a sounding board for the other's crazy ideas. And then we've built a team around us of folks that maybe bring different skill sets to the table, right? You need to have folks in your organization that are pumping the brakes sometimes, raising their hand and saying, hey, let's think about X, Y, and Z and the implications of this, right? And so, for us, we've really built a strong team of folks that bring those skills that we don't possess to the table.
Rebecca, do you think that Lauren and her husband are both towards?
Yeah, I think they're both towards individuals, folks that see the goal, see the benefits. But I
Not the away
also
from.
think, Lauren, that both of you have some of the attributes of an entrepreneur that include that creativity, that risk taker, that innovation, the willing to do whatever it takes, and the learning that goes with it. But you're right. It is uncommon in a spousal relationship to have both partners that are this crazy entrepreneurial. Usually there's that one with the big idea and the other that goes, wait, you know. And in your
Yeah.
case, it's a double whammy, right? Which is beautiful, but you've learned very quickly you got to surround yourself. I always describe it, Lauren, as kite and kite string, right? The kite string holds the kite up and allows it to fly, but it also kind of holds it back so it doesn't go nuts, right?
Yes, yes. And we are fortunate enough to have a lot of really great people around us at Millie's that are able to bring us down, maybe like bring us back to reality a little bit sometimes, because Chad and I are definitely both big idea people. I can certainly get into the weeds of a particular problem because I have an analytical mind as well. But it's not my preference to be in the weeds, right? I definitely like to be big picture. And Chad does as well. And so, yeah, we have a lot of really great people at Millie's that have been, a lot of them have been with us since day one too, which is great.
Oh,
That's beautiful. So now we have the picture of what the entrepreneur looks like. What is the picture of what the ideal Millie's franchisee looks like?
Oh, that is a great question. For us, it's someone that is passionate about the brand and what we do,
mhm.
right? So our statement of purpose at Millie's, Rebecca, I think you mentioned it in my bio, but it's crafting every scoop and every moment to make your day.
Hmm.
And in our POS system at the scoop shops, we even have a day maker button, which is 100% discount, right? Because if someone walks into the scoop shop and you have an opportunity to make a moment and make their day, you use that discount button, right? You make it happen. And we empower our employees and our franchise partners and their employees to do that. And so it has to be someone that's buying into that, to the mission of the company and our values, right? There has to be value alignment.
Mhm.
We do a lot of collaborations with local charities. And so it has to be someone that's passionate about that as well. Someone that loves ice cream, obviously, which isn't too hard to find, actually, it turns out. And someone that wants to build community.
Yeah.
Because, we're only successful if we can build community with our local partners. And the same is true for our franchise partners, right? They're only successful if they can really build strong relationships with stakeholders in their own local communities. So it has to be a person that ticks all of those boxes. And then outside of that, we're looking for someone that can dedicate some time to the business.
Mhm.
Um, this is not a great business for someone that just wants to maybe collect cash flow as a lifestyle, right? That just wants to set it and forget it. That's not what Millie's is. It has to be, someone that can dedicate a good amount of time. It doesn't have to be their full-time job, but it has to be a significant investment of time.
Yeah, it's got to be all hands on a happy duck.
That's
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and especially since it's such a community type of feel to it. And the franchisee becomes the face of the brand in many ways and building those relationships and being active in those charities and just that whole kind of people side of the business. So definitely I could see where this is someone that can dedicate some time to the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. We have 5 franchisees today. And 2 of them are a husband-wife team. And another 2 are women-owned. And then the 5th franchisee are 2 former nurses who are best friends,
Aw.
which I love. And so it's great. We have a lot of women in our franchise network. And listen, I don't have to tell you guys, women we get shit done, right?
We do.
Sounds like a motto, right?
Yeah.
And it's true. And women are beautifully suited to be franchisees. It is a business model that works well for women, especially in the situation that you're in, where it's also community based. Some heart is there, right? It's not all head. There's some heart there.
That's right. That's
I'm
right.
curious, Lauren. You talked about one of the next steps is the logistics and getting this to other states. What is next? I mean, are there going to be some additional flavors? Are we going to have carts on the beach, in Florida? Are we going to deliver by drones to my house? I mean, what are we going to do?
Yes to all of it. My dog is
I
not
just got the
happy.
visual. I just got the visual
Hold
of
on.
the drone with the ice
A
cream.
drone coming to my house, dropping me a pint or two.
I'll be right back. Hold on 1 second.
You got it, girl.
I
Can
think
you
I
see
just
that?
got the visual of the drone with a thing of I can see it.
I can see
I
it too.
totally see that.
We're entrepreneurs. We see these things, Tracy. But I would be out in my front yard waiting for it. I'd be like,
Totally waiting for the drop. Waiting for the drop.
So I love that idea. And Chad and I also have been working on the drone delivered ice cream. We're in Pittsburgh, which is the heart of the robotics industry, really, it seems, with Carnegie Mellon here.
That's right.
And National Ice Cream Day is in July. And so Chad and I are trying to figure out how we can drop ice cream to some lucky folks on National Ice Cream Day via drone.
That is
And
so
partner
cool.
with the local universities to do it. So it's funny you say that, like we would love to do that. It's just like something fun to do for the day. But yeah, we'll see.
So cool.
We'll see if we can pull it off.
That is so cool. God forbid that doesn't work out. You can always go with Hedwig from the Harry Potter series.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The owl. Just let the owl drop the ice cream.
Oh, I love that. I love that. But we're experimenting with some other cool things. We are looking to put ice cream vending machines around some different sporting venues. And we have a lot of relationships with local colleges. And we love that, right? That's great for us. If we can convert someone in college to a brand loyalist, then that is a lifetime customer, right? I'm sure for a lot of you this is true, but some of my favorite brands to this day are brands that I discovered when I was in college, right? So we're looking to do some fun things on college campuses that are innovative, especially in this post-pandemic environment, where college students are looking for different, unique ways to interact with brands, right? So a lot of NIL deals with college athletes, right? Those are fun. So looking at some of those things. And then one area of our business that is booming are food trucks.
Yes. It's a big deal.
It is.
I love food trucks.
Right? everyone loves food trucks. And in this post-pandemic environment, we've seen a real demand to bring an experience to the group, right? As opposed to the group coming out for an outing. They want you to come to them, right?
Mhm.
And the food truck, the ice cream truck makes that really easy to do. So we have a ton of demand for corporate appreciation events, weddings, of course, graduation parties, even neighborhoods where the parents in the neighborhood get together and they plan a food truck night,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a big opportunity there that we're really excited about.
That is awesome. So building on Rebecca's question of what's next, I'm curious, and I don't even know if like I'm allowed to ask this, but just don't give any trade secrets. But what has to happen for that next level? Like what are some of the obstacles that might be in the way, or if you can share something that you're working on to get to that next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the distribution piece,
Mhm.
which I think we feel pretty good about the network that we're building. But the distribution piece is definitely a big puzzle to solve for us. Um, and then outside of that, we need to build the infrastructure to support these franchisees,
Mhm.
right? They're taking a bet, they're making a bet on our brand. And for me to sleep at night, knowing that, I need to make sure I'm setting them up for success, right?
Mhm.
And that doesn't just mean making great ice cream. Sure, that's part of the equation, but they need to know how to run a business and run it profitably. And so we're investing in all of that infrastructure to support these franchisees. And we really are doing that now, even though we only have 5 franchisees, we want to do that now so that as we grow, right, we can do so in a sustainable fashion.
Yeah. And do it now when before you got 50 and all of a sudden you're trying to put legs under it, because it really is a different business. The franchise model is a different business than the making and selling of ice cream. So you're running 2 businesses now.
That's right.
So I have a kind of an off the wall question, and then I want to make sure that we let people know how to get hold of you, learn more about Millie's, all of that.
Sure.
What advice would you give to someone who decides to work with their spouse? It's not
Hmm.
easy, right?
It's not easy, but you know what, for us, I think it's important. I think this is very important that if you're going to go into business with your spouse or a best friend,
Or best
right?
friends, yeah.
Because that's intimate as well, that you both have different skill sets that you're bringing to the table.
Compliment. Hmm.
They need to be complementary such that you're deferring to them in areas of their expertise and they're deferring to you in areas of your expertise, but you come together and ask the critical questions that you both need to get to a better outcome, right? And so for me and Chad, he doesn't pretend to know much about finance, right? And I don't pretend to know much about food science. And so we bring these highly complementary skill sets to the table.
That's great.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, Lauren,
Yeah.
someone who wants to learn more, wants to, you know, partner up with you to have a franchise in their area, how would they learn more about you? Call you. Okay, and how would they do that? Wait.
Yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me is just go to the Millie's website, which is millieshomemade.com. And you can fill out an inquiry form right on the website that goes directly to me. and then we can start chatting if you're interested in learning more about franchising opportunities
That's awesome.
or anything for that matter, really.
We really appreciate you being here. This was fun. Ice cream
Oh,
is
good.
fun. Lauren is fun. Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun. Next time we'll do it while eating ice cream.
Ooh.
Now there's an idea. There's
Yeah.
an idea. I was hoping you would also bring pictures of your family and of your little sheep dog. So
Oh, you haven't heard him the whole time?
I'm deaf. I'm deaf, Lauren. Come here, baby.
Come here. Come here. I don't know if you can see here.
Oh, what a cute.
Oh, look how sweet he is.
He's 90 pounds of fluff.
He is fluffy, isn't he?
A cutie. The second sheepdog I saw within 24 hours. I wonder if that's a sign.
Oh, definitely. They're pretty rare. I don't see many of them around. His name is Bert. And there's another sheepdog that we see sometimes around town whose name is Ernie.
Bert and Ernie.
That is cute. That is precious.
Not coincidental, I have to say. So Tracy, do a wrap up for us.
Thank you
What's your takeaway here? This is just absolutely a brilliant conversation.
Okay, so first of all, I really feel compelled to do a shout out to Brian Cooper for introducing us. I'm so blessed.
Thank you, Brian.
It's such a blessing. He's
Thanks,
wonderful.
Brian.
He adds so much value to anything that he touches or gets involved with. So I just had to say that. And you know, what's interesting to me, Lauren, is that like everyone has passion for their brand. I just feel like you have this passion today that probably is the exact same as the first day you discovered that the ice cream and the first day you discovered you wanted to do that. And I think it comes through with everything that you talk about and your enthusiasm and just that genuineness about you. And when you were talking about creating really solid processes and infrastructure for support for your existing franchisees, I really understood where you were coming from. And it's coming from such a place of genuinely wanting everyone to succeed and to succeed together. So I just had to wrap my brain around that and share it and just thank you for who you show up as. It's wonderful. I couldn't wait to have you on the show. And Rebecca and I were very excited about this. So thank you for
That's
being
very sweet. That's very sweet, Tracy. Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. You ladies are a great time. I look forward to meeting in person someday soon, someday very soon. But yes, thank you. This has been great.
Thank you. And thank you to those of you listening in to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. We'll see you next week on another episode.